Last time on the Skip and Josh podcast.
But big game tonight.
Yeah, Duke UNC. Well, it's not so big. Like, Duke should win easily. UNC's not good this year.
UNC actually is probably not even going to be in the tournament this year. That's how bad they are.
Yeah, they probably won't.
You're listening to the Skip and Josh podcast with Skip Sherman and Josh Obadia.
I'm Josh in Toronto.
And I'm Skip in Montreal.
In today's episode, a new playoff format in baseball.
No cheerleaders in Montreal.
And more Houston Astros news.
But first, Duke versus North Carolina.
Okay, Skip, so some weeks you tell me that you have so much to talk about, and other weeks you tell me you have nothing to talk about, and I do the same. And funny enough, sometimes when you tell me you have so many things, I tell you I have nothing and vice versa. So this is one of those weeks where literally my list is way too long and there's no way we can get to everything, and we may have to do 2 episodes this week or something. I don't know what we're going to do. But
right.
College basketball.
But we have to start with something that's a week old already because, as you heard, I mentioned last week that Duke should beat North Carolina quite easily, and I could not have been more wrong about that.
Wow.
And I should have known. I should have known better, because when Duke and North Carolina play each other, it doesn't matter if one team is struggling, if one team's having a bad season, if one team has a bunch of injuries. It doesn't make a difference, because when some people say it's the best rivalry in sports, in all of sports, and so when they face each other, both teams get up for the game, and it doesn't matter if one team's struggling. It always ends up being a good game.
Yeah, all bets are off. Well, did you see, like, in the history of the Duke-North Carolina rivalry, and I'm sorry that I don't have the numbers in front of me.
I have the numbers in front of me.
It's in the hundreds of games, right? And then they're basically 500. It's even.
Well, in the last 100 times they played each other, they've played each other like more than that. But in the last 100 times they played each other, not including this past Saturday, the record was 50-50, and each team had scored exactly the same amount of points total.
Well, now it's 51-50, and Duke is only ahead by 2 points. Or 1, right? Whatever it is.
Right. I don't even remember what they won by. I think they won by 1.
Yeah.
But getting back to that game, so Duke played awful for the first 36 minutes of that game.
Terrible.
And not only that, so with 4 minutes left, I said to myself, Duke is not winning this game. There's no way Duke is winning this game. It actually reminded me of that Virginia-Purdue game from March Madness last year, where I said, there's no way Virginia's winning this game. And of course, they took it to overtime and they won.
Yeah. I mean, they had no business winning the game, Josh. Duke had no business winning that game.
None at all. They were so lucky to tie it up, lucky to get it to overtime.
Yeah.
And then in overtime, you would think that Duke would have had the advantage, because at that point, there were some guys that had fouled out of the game. And North Carolina, I think they were literally down to their last 5 guys or something. They had trouble just fielding a team on the court.
Right.
And Duke should have taken advantage of that. And they came out with the lead early in overtime. But then North Carolina had a lead. And again, it looked like, Duke is not winning this game. And only because of Trey Jones, where in regulation time, he intentionally misses a free throw, hits it off the rim, gets his own rebound, and throws up a prayer, does the game go into overtime.
I mean, that play to tie the game, right, to send it to overtime, is like a play that if they did it 100 more times, it wouldn't happen the same way. Like, there's just no way that they could even do that again. Like, it's just almost impossible.
Right.
But did you see the interview with Trey Jones after? And he said that he practiced with John Shire, who's assistant coach, for people who are unaware, former Duke player and national champion, and the assistant coach right now. And he said him and Shire practiced that missing free throw play, and he knows exactly where to go to get the rebound. And that's exactly what he did.
Well, they should practice that. Like, not just him. Like, really, any basketball player who might take a free throw in the last few seconds of a game should practice that.
Mm-hmm.
Now, interesting, by the way, you recall just before the free throws that North Carolina was up by 3 and didn't want Duke to shoot a 3-pointer, so they fouled Duke right away.
Yeah.
Now, So they fouled Duke. I think there was 4.4 seconds left. If they had fouled Duke a second later, which they could have, then Duke doesn't tie up the game.
Right. They don't have enough time to get that last shot off.
Exactly.
Right?
So North Carolina fouled too soon is what happened there.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's like if you're a North Carolina fan and if you're a coach or a player on that team, you can look back at like 50 different things and say, if I just would have done this, if I just would have did this, if I just would have did that, if we just would have got a stop here, if we just got a bounce here, like it's a game of what ifs, you know, like they should have won the game, you know, like, so.
Yeah, it was actually North Carolina could not hit their free throws at the end of the game. They were really bad. Yeah. And so Duke's strategy was, okay, we're just going to foul them because we want to stop the clock. And if North Carolina could hit their free throws, it wouldn't have even been a game.
Correct. And then Duke followed up that emotional victory on Saturday with a huge win over Florida State on Monday. And Florida State, you know, like that's the top team in the ACC pretty much, no?
Well, Louisville is, or was.
Yeah, Louisville, yeah.
But that Florida State game was completely different because Duke had the lead most of that game. So it wasn't like Duke had to come from behind. Against North Carolina, Duke was down 11 at one point. In fact, a few times during the game, Duke was down 11. So it didn't look good for Duke on Saturday.
Yeah, the Florida State game is one of those games where, like, against North Carolina, you said there's no way we're winning this game. But against Florida State, actually, I never thought we were ever going to lose.
Right.
Yeah.
Now, so I didn't realize, I mean, I should have, but I didn't realize how big a deal the game was because it was on a Saturday. And then, you know how PTI is on, you know, Monday to Friday. And usually the top story on PTI on Monday is something that happened on Sunday.
Well, it's usually NFL.
Right. But actually the top story on PTI on Monday was the Duke UNC game, even though it had happened 2 days earlier.
Yeah. Well, the next game will be interesting too. The next game will be at Duke, and I think we'll probably blow them out.
We'll see. It's never a blowout. It's like, you know, when Montreal and Toronto play each other in hockey, like the Leafs are a much better team than the Canadiens this year, but yet the Canadiens have beat the Leafs every single time this season.
Yeah, and then even last year when even if the Leafs were winning, somehow the game seemed to be tight, you know?
Yeah.
So
one other note about, we didn't even talk about the overtime, how Jones throws up a prayer that he misses, and I forget who it is that happens to be standing under the basket, just, you know, takes the ball and puts it in. Duke wins.
Wendell Moore.
Right, thank you.
Yeah, he just happens to, it's an air ball, and he just happens to be standing there, and he puts it in, game over. And then that's like a shocking end if you're North Carolina, because it's like you can't believe that the game's over, you know?
Yeah, it was like that North Carolina State game from, 20, 30 years ago?
Lorenzo Charles. Yeah.
Yeah, where
that
he
one's
throws
a little
up
more
that
dramatic
air ball.
than this. Yeah.
He throws up the air ball, and the guy standing under the net, he just catches it and puts it in.
Yeah. That was more dramatic because they won the national championship. But.
Of course.
Yeah.
Well, one other note about that game, Duke wore their 6th different uniform that game. 6th different uniform this season.
You love the uniform watch.
Actually, it was a nice uniform. It just had a big D on it.
Yeah.
And I think
I wonder what uniform they're going to wear. I wonder what uniform they're going to wear in the tournament. What uniform Dukes are going to wear in the tournament? Do they have to choose, or
I have no idea. Well, they have to travel, right? So,
yeah, but they're still home and away.
Yeah, I think they're just going to wear the basic one. I don't know. Who knows? But I think the reason they had a special uniform for that Duke North Carolina game was because it was commemorating the 100-year anniversary of the first time those two teams played each other. And so North Carolina also wore a special uniform.
So I only had one topic, and Duke wasn't one of them, but I kind of knew you were going to start with Duke. But
right.
Major League Baseball.
How about what's going on in baseball?
Well, we could do a whole episode just on the Houston Astros.
We could do a whole episode just on this sign stealing business. It's like, we've talked about it 3 weeks in a row now. This is the 3rd week in a row, or maybe 4th. And every time we talk about it, there's new stuff to talk about. Like it's like it never ends. And I really thought it was going to go away at a certain point. But now spring training started and all the teams are there, so it's just wild. Honestly, it's just wild, the whole thing.
Yes, I think we're going to talk about it every single episode now because it doesn't go away. It's the gift that keeps on giving.
And what about look, we can go into a little bit more chronological, but now since the Astros players haven't had any sort of punishment, they're basically saying it's going to police itself. So what does that mean? That means that the next time Jose Altuve comes to bat this year, he's getting hit by a pitch. I'd put money on it,
That's going to happen. But the thing is, even though every team wants to do that, eventually it's going to stop because Major League Baseball is going to start suspending pitchers who are intentionally hitting any batter, whether it's an Astro or not, but certainly if it's an Astro. So, even though Trevor Bauer, I'm sure, wants to hit all those guys and any other, pitcher wants to hit all those guys with a fastball, you won't be able to do it because everyone in the stadium is going to know you did it on purpose and you're going to get suspended.
Yeah. Well, so we've been saying that the Astros players have been unapologetic, and for the most part that's true, but some of the players were apologetic this week. The press conference they had was a complete joke. The owner should be embarrassed, but the interviews with Altuve and Verlander and Bregman that were done in the clubhouse were, I don't want to say they're sympathetic. Certainly they're not sympathetic, but they were somewhat apologetic. So I can at least there's that. But did you see the press conference of the owner? Did you see this?
I did, and he's an idiot. But I have to say, there's one thing that bothered me. I mean, there's a few things that bothered me about that whole day. So yeah, the press conference was awful. Afterwards in the locker room where they just had one-on-one interviews was a little bit better. However, still when players are asked point blank yes or no questions, did you wear a buzzer? None of them said no. They didn't say yes, I wore a buzzer, but none of them said no, I didn't wear a buzzer. How come you can't just answer the question?
Yeah. Well, I've heard them say it's absurd. They haven't said no. I saw one player saying it's absolutely ludicrous, and Major League Baseball did their investigation. They didn't find anything. But yeah, you're right. But and I was the first person to dismiss the whole buzzer story because I thought it was absurd. But this morning, I thought about it and I was like, wait a minute. And I saw the replay of Altuve coming home holding his shirt. And did you see the interview with Cody Bellinger?
Yeah.
And basically he's like, who hits a home run off of Aroldis Chapman and then holds his shirt the whole time running around the bases, then runs into the dugout, changes his shirt, and then comes out for an interview. And I was like, man, Bellinger's got a point, So I think it's 50-50 that in 3 weeks from now, we're going to be talking about how they wore a buzzer and that they have proof.
Well, first of all, any rumor that you heard a month ago, 2 months ago, 3 months ago,
they've all been proven true.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I'm not dismissing this buzzer thing at all, number one.
Yeah.
Number two, you mentioned something that annoys me. You mentioned how Major League Baseball did their investigation, and the players keep saying, oh, well, Major League Baseball did their investigation and they didn't find anything, or they didn't find this, or they didn't find that. What are you talking about investigation? What kind of investigation can you do? Unless you had some sort of hidden video camera in the locker room where players were getting dressed and you saw someone, putting a microphone or a buzzer under their uniform. What kind of investigation? You went and you asked people, hey, did anyone wear a buzzer? You think they're going to give you an honest answer? How can you actually do an investigation?
Well, I mean, they did get honest answers from other players. That's how this all started, right? Well, not that they did an interview, not that they did an investigation, but Mike Fiers is the one that said, they were cheating. So, I mean, I guess you could get someone to hint at the fact that there was additional cheating. I mean, I guess it's possible, but you're right. They can't get cold hard proof,
It's like the same thing where remember that football player, was it Myles Garrett, who swung a helmet at Mason Rudolph?
Well,
So Myles Garrett claims that Rudolph uttered a racial slur, and the NFL said they did an investigation. What kind of investigation can you do?
Yeah. Well, he doubled down on that this week, Myles Garrett, by the way. It's timely.
Yes. I know, but we're getting off topic.
What kind of investigation? Well, I mean, yeah, you're right. But I mean, in the NFL, there are mics all over the field, right? Like that. So, I mean, I guess they could go back and try to listen and see if they heard something. But yeah, you're right. It's like his word versus Rudolph's word, you know?
Yeah. Anyway, we're getting off topic. Sorry.
Yeah.
But
so look, I just want to read you the quotes from the Astros press conference, the owner,
Please.
Jim Crane.
Yeah, he's such
Our
an
opinion
idiot.
is that this our opinion is that this didn't impact the game. 55 seconds later, I didn't say it didn't impact the game.
He's a clown.
A reporter says, like, so then why are you guys apologizing? Like, why are you guys here apologizing if you didn't think it impacted the game? And he says, we're apologizing because we broke the rules. Like, oh, come on, buddy. Like,
they're not sorry that they broke the rules. They're sorry that they got caught.
You are 100% right. They're
sorry
they got caught.
I don't think they feel remorse at all.
They're not sorry they got caught. They're embarrassed they got caught.
Exactly.
They're not sorry.
Yes. Exactly. I don't think they feel bad. I don't think, like, you know, sure, they say one thing in front of the cameras and the microphones that you see, but when they go home, they're probably still dancing around in their basement where no one can see them saying, "Ha, we won the World Series in 2017," you know, whatever.
Yeah.
They are very embarrassed.
2 weeks ago, we talked about how taking the championship away from them, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, it will mean nothing. Like, it won't mean anything. Everybody's still going to recognize that the 2017 Astros won the World Series, even if they like strip the championship away from them.
Mm-hmm.
I think now if they did strip it away from them, it would have an impact. Don't you think?
I don't think so, because again, if I'm talking to you 10 years from now, 20 years from now, we're going to know who won the World Series in 2017.
But in the same way that, like, Roger Clemens and Barry Bonds are not going to get into the Hall of Fame because they're recognized as cheaters, it could be sort of the same situation, no? Like,
well, but
you're
that
always going to remember the 2017 Astros were cheaters.
But Bonds and Clemens haven't gotten into the Hall of Fame yet, so that can still be
changed.
Right. What happened in 2017 or anything that happened in the past can't really be changed. I think,
I guess not.
You know, everyone's talking about the punishment wasn't severe enough and whatever. I think the only thing really that you could do to the players that would really actually bother them would be to take away their salary for a full season.
Well,
I don't even know if the Players Association would allow that. I doubt it. But that's probably the only thing that they would actually care about.
Yeah. No, you're absolutely right.
Like their full salary for a full season.
But of course, the Players Association would never go for that.
Because I think there's a maximum fine you can fine a player.
I'm sure there is. Yeah. Anyways, this is a gift that keeps on giving. And then, you know, earlier this week, before the press conference, if we go back in time, there's this whole thing that came out with a pitcher for the Jays that I had never heard of, Mike Bolsinger, who filed a lawsuit against like everybody, right? I think
only against the
named
Astros.
in the lawsuit. No, but I think MLB is named in the lawsuit too.
I see.
Like okay. I think there's like a lot. I mean, you know how they do these lawsuits? They try to cast the widest net possible. Mm-hmm. But he's basically saying that, like, he came into a game against the Astros, he got hammered. He got sent down the next day, and then before he knew it, he was released, and his career was over. And now he's pitching in Japan.
Right.
Like, can he win the lawsuit?
He's got a valid point.
He does, but according to what I've read this week, with legal opinions, there's no chance that he can win the lawsuit. Because, yes, he can never prove definitively that it's the cheating that caused him to pitch poorly, because he could pitch poorly on a normal day, he could pitch well on a normal day, he could have got hit regardless. Like, it's impossible to prove, like, without a shadow of a doubt that whatever they did, you know, is the sole reason for him. You know, if he got sent down, why didn't he pitch lights out in the minors and get recalled, you know? And then he had been sent up and down about 7 or 8 times prior to this. So even prior to the cheating, there's a history of him sort of being a fringe major leaguer anyways, right? So it's very difficult, but the lawsuit certainly shines the light on the whole thing and sort of opens everybody's eyes to like, wow, like how deep does this go? Like you saw Bellinger's interview. You saw Bellinger's interview this week, and and he said he goes, not only did they steal the World Series from us, Altuve stole the MVP from Aaron Judge. So like it's gonna keep going, you know, like it's there's no end to like who you can blame. And if this guy Mike Bolsinger has a lawsuit, the first thing I texted you, or did I text someone else, was like, what about Clayton Kershaw and Yu Darvish? Those guys got hammered when they pitched in the World Series in Houston, right? How do we know that they didn't get hammered because of the cheating? Like it's really like something to think about, you know?
So this guy's lawsuit is actually, I mean, I don't think he's going to win. In fact, I'm pretty sure he's not going to win, but he does have a valid point. Now, one of the reasons you said that you even mentioned it, he's not going to win because it's almost impossible to prove. But the other reason he's not going to win is because if he wins, then you're going to see all these other pitchers filing lawsuits. And if he wins, then they're going to win their lawsuits as well. So it's going to open up a huge can of worms.
Well, if he wins, then the whole 2017 season is in doubt. If he wins, then you can look back at every Astros game of the whole season and say these games might not be legit, right? So the other thing every
is
home game. Sorry,
you mentioned Clayton Kershaw and Yu Darvish, you know, guys who got lit up in the playoffs, whatever, and they could file lawsuits. Yeah. However, and yes, you're right, you know, maybe the Astros did know what they were going to throw. However, those guys you just named, Kershaw and Darvish, got huge contracts like a few months later. So they were not impacted by this the way Bolsinger was impacted.
Oh, 100%. Of course they weren't, you know. And then I sent you another link this week. This guy, everybody should look at this, and I'm going to put this on our website. It's like, talk about like the modern ages of people having too much time on their hands. But this guy, who is an Astros fan, has this website called signstealingscandal.com, and you can go on it, and he has cataloged, I believe it's something like 8,000 bangs. And when I'm talking about bangs, it's the bangs of the trash can. He went back and looked at every Astros home game from the 2017 season and pitch by pitch, and you can see when there was a bang. You can hear, like, he catalogs when there was a bang and the outcome of that pitch. Was it a hit? Was it a walk? And actually, the vast majority of those bangs are balls. Believe it or not. Like it's interesting because when I look back and I look specifically at Bolsinger's inning that he's complaining about, and he actually didn't get hit. Like they didn't get any hits or home. It's not like he gave up a grand slam or anything. It was just like he walked a bunch of people, you know, and then they got a bunch of.
That's what Bolsinger was saying. He was saying that they laid off pitches that normally they wouldn't lay off of because they knew that it was a breaking ball.
Right. No, so and he's 100% right. Yeah. But I mean, it's just, if you want to go and waste an hour of your day, go to signstealingscandal.com and just click around, and you're going to be fascinated by the crazy stuff that you're going to see. But like how this guy, the level of detail that this guy has sort of cataloged.
By the way, why have like everyone's hating on the Astros, which I get, but why have the Red Sox, you know, flown under the radar? Because didn't they do the same thing the year later?
Well, we're going to find out. That's the whole thing. Speculation is that the Red Sox are next, you know, and they're going to be somehow punished. I don't know. Major League Baseball is in an interesting situation in that they need to punish the cheaters for the sort of integrity of the game, but they also need to sort of somehow move off of this and get people focused on games and actual baseball. So I don't think they want to drag it out. No. Like I said, as soon as the Astros play their first game, the first spring training game, someone's going to get hit by a pitch. It's going to be cameras everywhere. First home game, first road game, first time they I don't know who they're playing in interleague play this year. Are they playing the Dodgers? Oh my God, imagine.
I don't think the Dodgers and Astros play each other this year.
No, but anyways, look, the Astros are certainly going to have something to prove, right? There's two ways the season's going to unfold for them. They're going to either they're either going to have a lousy season and everyone's and all the batting averages are going to be 10 to 20 points lower, and everyone's going to say, you see, they're cheaters, or the Astros players are going to be so pissed about proving themselves that they're just all going to have career years. So, I mean, they are talented players, right? They do have a talented team. It's not like they're a bunch of nobodies. So,
by the way, there was a player. There was a player on the Astros in 2017. He's on the A's now, Tony Kemp. I think he was a rookie in 2017 or maybe his second year, and he was called up from the minors in the middle of the season. And as soon as he was called up, they said to him, hey, do you want us to, you want to be a part of this sign stealing? We can tell you what pitch is going to come, yada, yada, yada.
Listen to this. Marcy comes over and she tells me that her ex-boyfriend was over late last night and yada, yada, yada. I'm really tired today.
And he said no. He said, I don't want to be a part of it. I mean, this is what he said yesterday. He said, no, I don't want to be a part of it. Whatever. I just let me hit on my own and whatever. And that was that. So, I mean, so he knew that it was going on, but he didn't participate. Apparently, this is what he said. Who knows how much of that is true? I found it surprising that, a young kid who just got called up from the minors, who still has to prove himself, would not want to be part of this, because wouldn't you want your batting average to be as high as it could be?
You would. And also, look, we heard different stories this week versus last week. Last week we heard that Cora and Carlos Beltran were like the ringleaders, and they pressured everybody, including their own manager, sort of pressuring him to like get this thing going. And then this week you kind of heard that no, Beltran wasn't as big an influence as everyone says, and we're all big boys and we're all adults here, and we all made our own decision. So I don't know. I just think it's a story that's never going to go away. And next week we're probably going to find out that they had a proof about the buzzer.
So you said, by the way, you said big boy, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
big
I would have said big bois. I would have said big bois.
Big bois. Yeah. So, other MLB news this week.
Yes, there was other news.
Of course there was, because Major League Baseball unveiled that they've had discussions about new playoff formats and new rules and more teams making the playoffs.
Before you continue. Before you continue, I'm sorry to interrupt you, but I saw that press release or whatever announcement, whatever you want to call it. And what I didn't understand was everything that was in there.
Yeah.
Other than the idea for the playoffs, everything that was in there had already been announced. We already knew it. So what were they announcing? I didn't quite understand that.
Now they're saying they want more teams in the playoffs. That's 7 teams in each league should be in the playoffs.
No.
And
but
the teams that have the higher seed.
Aside from the whole playoff thing, they talked about the roster limit. They talked about the no.
The roster stuff is all the roster stuff is all legit. The other stuff I'm talking about is all the stuff that they're thinking about doing, that they said they've only had sort of cursory discussions with the Players Association about adding playoff teams and making this selection show where the higher seeded teams are going to choose which team they're going to play in the next round. I don't know if you heard about all this.
No, I heard about all of it. But in the same press release, they announced the rules about the roster size, and they announced the rule about the 3-batter minimum for relievers. But all those other things, they had already announced them weeks or months ago. So I don't know what they were announcing. Yeah. This is my point. They were just announcing something that everyone already knew.
I know, because when I saw the press release, I was like, didn't we talk about this 2 weeks ago? Right? So, yeah.
We did.
I don't know. So I know your favorite player. One of your favorite players.
Who's that?
Trevor Bauer.
Yes, I do like him.
Okay. This is a tweet from him this week. No idea who made this new playoff format proposal, but Rob Manfred responsible for releasing it, so I'll direct this to you. Rob Manfred, your proposal is absurd for too many reasons to type on Twitter and proves you have absolutely no clue about baseball. You're a joke, period.
Yeah, I saw that. That's
so
pretty
Trevor
funny
Bauer,
stuff.
For Trevor, and then there's a link to this 15-minute video where he discusses all the points and oh my God, I mean, it's a pretty strong opinion, I mean, for the most part, I'm not that much against more playoff teams. I think it's okay. It's just that baseball's regular season is already so long that you don't want to make the regular season all more worthless than it already is. You know, like the games have to sort of count for something, no?
Yeah, so here's my thoughts. First of all, they want to go from 10 playoff teams to 14. I don't mind going from 10 to 12. 14 is too many because then you're getting into like NHL and NBA territory where, you know, half the teams in the league make the playoffs.
Right.
So I would be okay going from 10 to 12. I wouldn't go to 14. That's one thing. Second thing is already now, the way the playoffs are now with 10 teams, there's always 2 teams at least who they don't play their first playoff game. The season ends on a Sunday, and they don't play their first playoff game until Thursday because they have to wait for the wild card games, and then there's the off day, and then because of television. So there's 2 teams at least that don't play their first playoff games until Thursday. So that's already a long layoff for baseball because usually you guys, the players play every day. So with this new thing where a team would get a bye, it would be an even longer delay before those teams played their first game. So that's another reason I don't like it. And finally, the third thing I was going to say about this whole new format, I understand why they want to have like a selection show on Sunday, like what NCAA basketball does, because it would be cool and it would be interesting. But you can't let a team select their opponent. It just, you know, it won't work. I mean, yes, it'll work. You can do it. But imagine you pick, I don't know, the Baltimore Orioles. They're not going to make the playoffs this year, but let's say they do. Do you understand how aggravated the Orioles are going to be when they think, oh, really? You think we suck? You want to play us? We'll show you.
Yeah, well, it's part of it. That's part of the appeal of the proposal, isn't it? Like to make some drama, get some excitement.
I guess. I don't know. I mean, I don't think it's as bad as Trevor Bauer makes it out to be. I don't think it's great, but I don't think it's as bad as he says. Yeah.
Look, I get that they want to sort of try something. Full credit to Major League Baseball and Rob Manfred. They want to try something. They want to appeal to new fans. They want to, like, they want to. There's nothing wrong with trying to make changes. Like, that's how you sort of adapt with the times. Except the problem with Major League Baseball is they're so behind the times on so many other things that this is like a little Band-Aid, this thing. Like, I did some research this week because the topic came up and I saw it on Twitter and I was like, what are they talking about? And then I looked it up myself. Do you understand how the TV blackout rules are? Like, and how backwards it is, like with Major League Baseball, and why they have no fans under the age of 30 or 25?
Like, I don't know the blackout rules. I know that all the playoff games start way too late, and that's why kids don't watch.
Playoff game starting late is one thing for sure. But the blackout rules is absolutely crazy, and I'll just summarize it as quickly as I can because it's much more complicated. But you can, so right now, think about it. Anybody under the age of 30, 25, they don't have cable, right? Mm-hmm. Everybody just gets everything streaming. There's no people don't have like a cable provider anymore. Okay, so great. Major League Baseball has a thing you can sign up for, the Major League Baseball at Bat or whatever it's called, where you can get all the games and it costs you $100-something a year, and you can get every game, right? Mm-hmm. Problem is, every game, if I'm a fan of the Cubs and I'm living in Chicago, every White Sox game and Cubs game I cannot get in that streaming package. It's blacked out. I'm not allowed to get it because I'm only allowed to watch it on cable because Major League Baseball has a separate deal with for broadcast rights for TV with a cable company in Chicago. So you can't watch it. So no matter who you're a fan of, no matter what team you're a fan of, if you sign up for that Major League Baseball streaming package because you want to watch all the baseball games, you can't watch your home team. You cannot watch your home team. It's the most absurd, backwards thing. They want to force you to like only watch on cable. But people don't have cable.
I wonder if it's the same thing in Canada, because I know that if I want to get every Blue Jays game in Toronto, I can. I have to pay.
Well,
but I can
Canada is a different story, probably. Honestly, Canada is probably a whole different story. But honestly, look it up and read up about it. It's amazing because the blackouts are actually more far-reaching than what I've just described. Because if you live in like New York, New Jersey area, depending on if you live 5 miles this way or 5 miles that way, a different team is blacked out for you. You know?
That is interesting. I didn't know that.
Yeah. Yeah. So, like, they're so behind the times with the broadcast rights that all these other solutions that they want to do with the playoffs and whatever, it doesn't make a difference, you know? Like, they're losing fans by the tens of thousands every day, you know? Like, they're losing so many fans every day, they don't even... Well, I mean, did you see the attendance numbers? I saw a tweet this week. It looks at the total attendance in Major League Baseball over the last 10 years. And it's something like 12 million less fans in 10 years in total.
In defense of Major League Baseball, attendance is going down in hockey and basketball and football as well because people are staying home and watching on television rather than actually going to games. So part of that is not baseball's fault. It's just, people just don't want to go.
I know, but baseball needs to make it so that everybody can watch all the games. There shouldn't be blackouts, right? If the attendance is down, well, you have to let people somehow watch their games. You can't just say, oh, you live here, you can't watch it on streaming. You can only watch it on cable, Anyways, that's baseball.
One other baseball note, because last week you brought up the Mookie Betts trade.
Oh boy, yeah.
And so there's...
It's funny. Last week I thought the trade was official. Apparently it wasn't.
Right.
This week.
Well, that's one thing. I want to mention two things about this Mookie Betts trade. One is, imagine you're Jock Peterson because...
Yeah. Oh, that trade never happened. They took that back.
Exactly. That trade never happened. And so now Jock Peterson, who thought he was on the Angels, is now still on the Dodgers. Now, how do you walk into that locker room knowing that the team doesn't really want you? They just traded you, but now you're still on the team. I
bet he gets traded before the season started.
You're probably right. He probably will. But this is why they should not announce things until they're 100% official.
But did they announce it or was it leaked? I don't know.
Well, if it was leaked, somebody leaked it. You shouldn't leak it.
Yeah. Oh, no. Absolutely. Yeah.
So that was one thing I want to mention. The other thing I want to mention was you were like stunned. You couldn't believe that the Red Sox would trade Mookie Betts. And you were asking me, like, how could this happen? How could they do this? He's one of the top 3 or 4 players in all of baseball. And, I tried to walk you off the cliff. And I said, well, I tried to give it to you logically because they don't want to spend $400 million on him. They don't think they're going to be able to re-sign him. And they want to get under the luxury tax. So I gave you all the logical reasons why they did it. And I get it. If you're a Red Sox fan, you don't care about any of those things.
Right.
But what I wanted to mention is I'm surprised that you were surprised because ever since the Edmonton Oilers traded Wayne Gretzky to the Los Angeles Kings, ever since that day, nothing that happens surprises me.
No, you're absolutely right. That's the go-to. Whenever there's something crazy, especially a trade or a signing, you can always go back and like, if the Oilers traded Gretzky, then anything could happen, which is 100% true. Absolutely.
That is my benchmark for everything.
Yeah.
So anyway,
but I mean, when you look back at the Oilers trading Gretzky, it's basically because the owner was broke, right? So, anyways, that's a whole other topic for another story. So it came out this week that apparently the Red Sox offered Mookie 10 years, $300 million, and he turned it down because he wanted more and more years, and then the Red Sox were not willing to go that far. But I mean, if you're willing to go 300 for 10, I mean. It's just why not?
By the way, he's not worth $300 million. Like Bryce Harper's not worth $300 million, and Manny Machado's not worth $300 million. Those guys aren't worth it.
Yeah. No, you can't say so and so is worth or so and so is not because people aren't even worth $2 million. It's you're worth whatever someone's willing to pay you. That's what you're worth. So, yeah, Manny Machado, maybe you think he's not worth it, but someone thinks he is. right?
But what I'm saying is, like, Machado's contract, I think, is for 10 years. And Harper's contract, I think, is for 13 years. These guys aren't going to be productive for 10 years or 13 years. So whatever you've paid them, they're not worth it. You're better off. Yes, I know he might be in the prime of his career, and it might sound ridiculous to let him go, but you're better off letting him go.
Well, that's what the Red Sox did. Look, the beauty of the Red Sox, and I don't want to say the beauty, is that they cheaped out, okay? They said, we don't want to go this route. We don't want to pay this amount of money. And in other markets, fans would be like, okay, we're done with you. But that stadium is going to be full. They are going to sell out every game again, regardless of Mookie or no Mookie, Mm-hmm. And they have a license to print money for their franchise, sort of like the Montreal Canadiens here in this market, who haven't been in the playoffs for how many years already, and the Bell Center is still full,
Well, I don't know. I don't think every game at the Bell Center is sold out.
You're right. It's not, because we're going on 5 years of below mediocrity, whereas the Red Sox just won the World Series 2 years ago. And maybe they'll win it in 2 years again, or they're going to be in contention again. So they are a much better team. But the Red Sox ownership decided what they made their decision, right? They made their decision. We're not paying him, so they're not paying him. They're going to live with that. Everybody's going to live with it. The Dodgers are, oh boy, the Dodgers. I can't fathom how the Dodgers are not going to win the World Series. No,
I mean, just because they have the roster and a sick lineup, things can happen. Guys can get injured. You never know.
Of course, no, of course, it's true. All right, enough of baseball. I mean, did you have other topics? You said you had other topics. I
have too many other topics. We don't have enough time. I don't want the show to go too long, so we'll have to talk about them next time.
Are they still like applicable next time, or?
Sure, yeah, of course, no problem.
All right, so let's end it here. Before we sign off, remember you can listen and subscribe to new and archived episodes of the Skip and Josh podcast wherever you listen to podcasts, including Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, Google Play, iHeartRadio, and of course Spotify. If you listen to the show through Apple Podcasts, please leave us a review. We would love to hear from you via email, skipandjoshshow@gmail.com, via Twitter @skipandjosh, or by liking and following our Facebook page. As always, you can get all the links to everything I just talked about on our website, skipandjosh.com.
We leave you with this.
So, do you have anything that you want to leave the listeners with to end the show?
Sure, I have a new favorite store.
Oh, God. I can't wait to hear. What is it?
Kitchen Stuff Plus.
Oh, Jesus. You never cease to amaze me, Josh. What did you buy at Kitchen Stuff Plus?
Well, I've been there 2 weeks in a row now, and the first week I bought, that brush that if you have to brush some sort of liquid while you're baking onto like bread or whatever. So I bought one of those brushes, and I also bought, I guess it's a whisk, like to beat an egg.
Yeah, so you never had a whisk?
I never had a whisk.
Yeah. I never really used a whisk. I always just use a fork.
Right. Well, until I had the whisk, I used the fork, but the whisk is better. And so that's what I bought last week. And then this week, went back to the same store, and I bought, first of all, I bought this set. It's like it comes with one fork, one knife, and one spoon, and a case, so you can take it with you. And I guess people use it for camping. I don't go camping, but I took it to work so that I don't need to, every time I go down to the food court, I don't need to use the plastic cutlery that they provide because I'm trying to help the environment.
You're amazing. You're bringing your own utensils to the food court.
Well, I don't actually. No. I bring the food back upstairs to my office, and so I don't.
No, okay, I get it. Right.
And I also bought.
Good for you, Josh. Doing your bet to reduce plastic.
And right? I bought something else. Hold on, I don't even. Oh yeah, I bought the same day. I bought a. It's called a potato scrub.
Yeah. It's like a heavy brush, right?
To clean the potatoes, yes.
Yeah, because you're a bachelor. I have all this stuff. Everything you described, well, other than the fork and knife and its portable utensil set, but I mean, I've got all that stuff you described.
I did have a potato scrub before, but the old one was getting like worn out, and so that's why I bought a new one.
This is riveting stuff, right?
Yeah.
Our listeners need to know. So I had a note last week that I didn't use, and I'm happy that I didn't use it because it was updated this week. So I don't know if you heard, the Montreal Alouettes of the Canadian Football League have new owners.
Yes.
And one of their first orders of business 2 weeks ago was they decided no more cheerleaders.
Really? I didn't. I'm surprised I didn't hear that.
You didn't hear about this? Yeah. No more cheerleaders. They said that cheerleading is gone, and they when asked why, it was purely a cost-cutting measure. Now.
But they hardly pay them anything anyway.
I know. So there was such a backlash that this week
this wasn't an
they
April
announced.
Fool's joke?
No, we're only in February, so you go up and read it. They announced this week. They did a 360 and they said, "No, we made a mistake. We're sorry. The fans have spoken. The cheerleaders are back." So the thing is, people did some research and they found out all the cheerleaders. The whole cheerleading squad costs less than $30,000 a year for the Alouettes to operate. $30,000 a year, and they want to cut that cost. Now think about it. This is brand new owners buying a brand new franchise, and their first thing is to say, we can't afford $30,000. Like, what does that tell you about how things are going to go with these owners of the team? If they can't afford $30,000 for cheerleaders, this team is in big, big trouble. That's all I have to say. Like, they're on the cheap for this. Like, what the hell? Like, how do you operate a team like this? It's absurd.
So I'm stunned that I didn't hear this story, because I have, like, on my Score app, I have one of my things as my favorite team. One of my favorite teams is the Alouettes, and so anytime there's breaking news, like a new owner or a new general manager or a trade or a signing, I get an alert. So I'm surprised
you didn't hear it
that
either.
I didn't hear about this.
Well, look it up. Just look up Alouettes cheerleaders. There's a million articles.
I mean, I'm going to look it up now. I'm surprised I didn't hear about it till now.
Yeah, they announced that they're firing them, then they rehired them, and now everything is right with the universe.
But yes, they hardly get paid. They don't get paid very much.
No, they announced how much they get paid. It's like a certain fee per game. It's really nothing.
All right.
Interesting. So next time you're fully loaded with topics already. So it's great.
Yes, I am. We could do the next episode tomorrow.
Maybe we will. All right. Talk to you. Well, next week we're going to still be talking about the Astros. I'm sure there's going to be, like I said, next week we're going to find out that Altuve was wearing a buzzer. So
we might.
We'll talk about that. Yeah. All right. Talk to you next time.
Okay.